All right, so today I'm going to play around with a widget in the ArcGIS API for JavaScript that I don't really mess with too much. To be honest with you, I'm not even that much of a fan, but I get the usefulness of it. I get it, okay? That's Scalebar, because you might be interested in knowing what the scale is on your map. So here's the documentation for the Scalebar. There's a sample for the Scalebar widget. But one thing I know I have seen people do, right, is you'll actually say come into an area like over here, and maybe you're interested in knowing, like, you don't want to bust out the measurement tools or anything right away, so you just kind of lower your map down and maybe kind of like mess with the rotation a bit, maybe kind of zoom in and go, okay, this area of the street here is about 0.4 kilometers, right? Roughly. And you're just like, okay, cool. That's a real quick and dirty measurement, right? And what's interesting when you mess with the scale bar and stuff is the fact that when you go to like, if we come up here to, let's kind of straighten that up a little bit. If you come down, I go way over here, top of the map, right? It's like 400 kilometers. That's 2,000. And then you get down to like 4,000, then back down here like another 200 kilometers, 400 kilometers, right? And that's just because, projections and stretching the map, all that good stuff, right? So if you're not, you should be familiar with this. Anyway, so kind of way the measurements and stuff work. So I was messing with something. I had a map with the scale bar, and somebody was like, hey, it'd be really cool if I could drag that scale bar on the map and just kind of do some quick and dirty measurements with stuff. So I was like, cool, we can do that. So let's try it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to, let's come back to the API here just for this. I've installed ArcGIS Core in this project. I need to kind of mess with some of the CSS here, so give me a second. So I got some CSS here. I'm going to have my map view, right? So that's a view div, and I'm going to have a container that's going to be the actual container that's going to be dragging things around. Now I'm going to make a custom element, a web component, right? So this is what the app looks like right now. We're going to change this and tweak it up a bit. So, okay, so CSS is all done. And I need to modify the HTML a little bit. Okay, so this is the HTML for our stuff here. Let's go ahead and switch out this title here. All right, so we're going to call this, I don't know, scale bar drag, right? Awesome. So we've just completely changed up our app here. So now we're going to do all the work inside of this main.js file. So we're going to delete all this stuff. We're going to keep the style there, but actually, you know what? We need to, I need to add a link tag to the HTML ones. Let's do that. Okay, so let's put, there's our style sheet for the JavaScript API. And let's come back in the main.js here. So, okay. So let's just get our map up and going and get the actual map itself. So let's bring in some stuff here. We're going to, awesome. So let's create a map real quick. And let's give it a base map for gray vector. And let's create our view. It's container, and the containers will be the view div. And let's just give it a zoom of 1. We don't want to be too far zoomed in. Okay, so now we can create a scale bar. So let's const scale bar going to be equal to a new scale bar. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Look at that. My bad. I should know that. I didn't. And the scale bar is just going to have a view, but we also have a container for it, and that container was called scale bar container. And let's just go ahead and, for purposes right now, we'll add it to the view UI. So view UI.add scale bar top right. All right, cool. So let's see what that looks like. And here we go. Right, so here's our map. zoom in, and you can see it changing and stuff and doing everything that we expect it to do. Okay, so now I want to drag it. Now, how am I going to do that now? That's where the fun part comes in. So I'm actually going to create a custom component for this. So let's come out over here. Okay, so I'm going to create a new component called dragcontainer.js. Okay, so this drag container, I don't know if I have to actually import anything. I don't think I do. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a custom element. So I'm going to go ahead and export default class, and we're going to call it drag container extends HTML element. And we're going to go ahead and do define. Okay, so we're going to do custom elements.define, and we're going to call this thing drag container, and the constructor is the drag container. Okay, just made a custom elements. Now we have to do some stuff with it, right? So, okay, what do we want to do here? The first thing I need to do is I need a constructor. Okay, and I have to call super, just because that's what we gotta do. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to add shadow DOM. So this dot attach shadow, and it's going to be an object, and it's going to be mode open, right? This isn't necessarily a shadow. This isn't necessarily a custom elements web components video, so I won't go into detail on how all this is going to work, but just trust me that that is correct. We're also going to have a. I want to be able to track when I click on something and drag it around, so I need to have something that's going to capture that. So we're going to have a property on here called mouse down. That's going to be equal to false. And okay, so now we got the shadow. Next thing we want to do is we want to have the style and then the template. So what I'm going to do, what I like to do is actually like to make these private methods. Actually, I don't need to do that. We're just going to say here. So we're going to have add style. All right, and then I'll have an add template. Okay, and then I can actually call these in here. So, okay, perfect. So for the style, what we want to do is we actually want to create a style element. So const, oh gosh, come on, style. Oh my gosh, can I type? Style is going to be equal to document dot create element, and it's going to be a style tag. All right, so what I've got here is I've got the text context is going to be have the host. I'm going to give it a width of max content, and then it's going to be element in here with the class for drag container template. That's going to be display flex, line item center, and then when you hover over this drag container icon, it's just going to change that color a little bit. It's going to have a little filter on here, CSS filtering, just so you can tell that you're interacting with it in some way, right? So that's what this is going to do here. So now what I want to do is actually want to attach that style to the shadow root. So this dot shadow root dot append child style, like so. Awesome. Okay. So now for the template, we actually have to have the template. This is what is going to be in our custom element. This is what the custom element is going to be made up of, right? So there's a way that you do that, and basically you want to create a template. So your const template is going to be equal to document dot, oh come on, create element, and it's going to be template spell. Oh my gosh, can't spell. Right, and then we're going to go ahead and put the inner HTML here. Let me clean that up. Okay, so what we're going to do here is going to have a div with that class that we defined before, drag container template. We have a slot here, and this is where the actual scale bar will end up going. And then we've got a SVG for a little icon, it's a little round icon in here. Actually, let me show you where I got that icon too, because I think that's kind of cool. Okay, so where I got that icon was actually from Calcite UI Icons library. right? So what you can basically do in here is you can search the libraries, and I searched for just various things, but I was looking for, okay, let's go with something that's like circle-like. And I found this one here, Circle F. Then you can go ahead and pick the size you want, either 16, 24, or 32. I picked 32. And you just go over here and you can copy the, do an inspect, and then you copy the SVG element directly. And I just copied this SVG and put it right into my page. Super easy, easy peasy, right? I think that's pretty cool. And it's a great feature you can use to check out some really cool icons that are available from Calcite. Okay, so let's get back to work here. So I've got my template. What you want to do here is you want to go to shadow root, and yes, we are going to append child, but we're actually going to go ahead and take the template, take the content, and we're going to clone the node. And we're going to go ahead and say true. All right, so that part is done. Okay, so now what I want to do is, okay, so remember this, I've got an element here for my icon that is going to be drag container button. I gave it that button thing so I remember what it is. I have the template and everything in here, so let's make it a little smaller, easier to see. So okay, so we've got some cool stuff happening here. I need to do some more work in here. So there is like most things, there's a life cycle method that you could use to grab when the custom element gets attached to the page, for example. So constructor, when it gets created, when the custom element's defined, and then when it actually is added to the page, there's a method that's called connected callback, capital, yeah, not capital B, just like that, connected callback. So this is going to get called, and this is where you can start adding like event listeners and stuff like that. So just grab this. So const button is going to be equal to not document, but this dot shadow root dot query selector, and we're going to grab the dot drag container button. You can I tried to use BEM, B-E-M, but I'm not sure if I did it right. I don't care if I did it right. I just needed to distinguish these class names in some way. So now I need to add an event listener. I need a couple event listeners. I need an event listener for when there's a mouse down from the button, right? So when I actually am grabbing it and I'm have that mouse down action I want, right? I also need to listen for when I am just moving the mouse around the entire page. So I need to have some window event listeners here. And then I need to know when I mouse up, right? So I need mouse down, mouse up, mouse move. So let me make some methods here to help me out with that, some private stuff. All right, so it's going to be on mouse down. Did I spell that right? I hope so. And we're going to have on mouse up. Yeah. And we're going to have on mouse move. Okay, so what happens on mouse down? Remember that we have that is mouse down properties. So this dot is, or is it called just mouse down, is going to be equal to true. And when mouse up, this dot mouse down is equal to false. And on mouse move, we need to do some more stuff that we'll get to in a second. We're not actually going to mess with that just yet. So, okay, so let's get back to our callback here. We need to start adding some event listeners. So I need a button, and I need to add an event listener for mouse down. And on mouse down, we're going to go ahead and listen to this dot on mouse down. But because you know, I'm passing it to another method here, and I'm referencing this, I need to bind. So we're going to bind this. No, I don't have this arg. Kind of annoying adds that, but it's okay. Okay, so now I need another listener on the window. So window to add event listener. It's going to be mouse up. And on this event listener, we're going to do this dot on mouse up. And we're going to bind with this. like so. There we go. And I need another listener on the window for, I need it for, what do I need it for? I forgot. Mouse move. That's right. Mouse move, not mouse moves. That'd be kind of cool though. And I'm not French, I'm spelling move wrong. So I need on mouse move. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So now if I'm going to listen to these things, let's see, 6. I need to remove them when this is removed. Now, my particular case, I'm not removing them in any way. This isn't like an element that gets removed, but if it was, you'd want to do this to clean things up. So you pretty much just say, remove event listener for everything that you added. All right. Okay, so now we removed all the event listeners. We've done our job, due diligence, and we're good to go there. Okay, so let's see here. How am I going to make this work? Let's come over here to main.js, and we're going to import the drag container. That's going to define the custom element. We won't work just yet. We're going to get to the custom element part in just a second. But I do want to go ahead and just start grabbing some things, right? So we're going to move some stuff around. I'm going to say view.when because I want to make sure that everything's loaded and ready to go. And when I do this, I'm going to move my Scalebar stuff up. So, okay, so we've got our Scalebar in here. And instead of adding the Scalebar, we're not going to add anything to the view. Matter of fact. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab the drag elements. So const drag is going to be equal to document dot query selector. Oh my gosh. There we go. The drag container. I want to listen for a drag event. So something saying that it's happening, right? Okay, awesome. So here is our custom element. And you can see I've got that little button here. So the idea here is that I can grab this and start dragging it around the map, right? And we'll come back to this in a second. So I've got my element reference here in my main file, but now what I need to do is I actually need to go ahead and make it so that it'll reposition this as I move my mouse around, which we were trying to do in the custom element, right? That's the job of the element. So let's come over here and let's come back down over here to the mouse move, which we have not implemented yet. All right, so in mouse move, we're going to say that if this dot mouse down, start doing some work. So we're going to say that const x is going to be equal to, let's go with 10. And I'll tell you why, right? So the size for my SVG button over here is, let's come back over here. I made it height of 20 pixels and width of 20 pixels. So if I want this to get dragged around and it is going to be like right in the center of where my mouse is, I want it to be half of that height, right? So I want to grab the location where I click on the screen and then down the 10 pixels down to here. Okay, because it's going to get me the size of this is what I'm going to grab. I'm grabbing the size, and this is like about, I don't know, it's probably 20 pixels high, and I want 10 pixels minus that or plus that. These are page units, correct, from this corner here. So I need to do a little bit of math, not a lot, just a little bit, to figure this out. And this is something I could also even make configurable in the widget if I wanted it to, but we're not going to go that far for this thing here. So now what I want to say is this dot style dot top is going to be equal to, let's grab the event here. So I'm going to grab my event, and it's going to be equal to the event dot client. What am I doing here? The first one, top, is going to be y, right? I hope so. Minus this dot client. It's the top. It should be height. Yes, top height. Sorry, I'm trying. You don't see me, my hands in motion here, trying to figure out the math I'm doing. But yes, and then I want to. It's not plus, minus. Okay, and this is going to be plus y plus pixel value. Okay, sorry, that took me a little bit of math in my head to figure out. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the left now. So we do everything from the left, and this is going to be client X now, not Y. It's going to be the client width now, and it's going to be client width plus X. Okay, awesome. And now what we're going to do is we're going to let whoever is using this custom element know that we are dragging it so that it can act on it. And I'll show you why in a second. So we can actually dispatch a custom event. So we're going to do new custom event, and we're just going to say dragging. We're not passing any properties or anything like that. Not for what we need to do. We don't really, I don't think the user of this really cares or needs to know. So, okay, great. Now let's start dragging this thing around. Now it's just drag. Undefined of bind. Oh, my bad. Okay, I have some misspellings here. Okay. Here we go. So now, with all my event listeners and everything hooked up, I should be able to start dragging this around. Awesome. But wait a second here. My measurement's not changing. If I zoom my map in, though, it is. Okay, so something, it's not dynamic. Okay, so it's not bound up right. Something on here is just not, it's not updating dynamically, which is not what I want. So, okay, we can do something to fix that. So the scale bar isn't going to just update by itself, like dragging it around. It just doesn't know what to do. So let's go ahead and fix that. So like I said, the scale bar doesn't know it's being dragged around. It just doing what it needs to do. Let's go and add this to the UI view dot UI dot add drag. Oops. And we do a manual because I've already got the CSS defined for it, but I still want it to be part of my UI. Okay, so what we need to do is add, remember we have a custom event that we're dispatching from here. So we're going to do a drag.event listener, and it is a dragging event. And this is just going to, we don't have an event that we really need to do anything with, but when we are dragging, we want the scale bar to call this method it has called render now, right? So it's going to update as soon as we start dragging around the map. Okay, so this could be more apparent if I were to zoom in one more. Do that. Really easier that way. Okay, so we move around the map. As I drag it, you can see it's like 300 here, 1,000 miles over here, 1,000 miles over here, and we get into the middle. You see that's actually changing size, right? So it's staying at 1,000 miles or 600 here, but it'll resize itself a little bit based on where I drag this around. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to show how you can build a really small custom element that could interact with your UI in some way, right? And I've been doing a lot of custom elements for little things like this. And they're really useful. You don't need a whole framework in place. And I love Stencil. I think Stencil is great. Lit element is also pretty good from Google. I like that too, but sometimes you just don't need all that. I'm not doing any special UI, or sorry, I'm not doing any special like styling or anything for this. I just need a regular custom element that can do some stuff for me. And this particular case works great. Now take this and move it to other projects. So yeah, so if you find yourself in need of something like this, don't be afraid to dive right in and build something cool. But try it out, play around with it. Again, completely experimental, no guarantees, no warranties, but have fun with it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Leave me any questions down below. Appreciate it. Thanks. I just want to let you know that I've started a new podcast called The Bounding Box, where I'll be talking about geo development, web development, and everything in between. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and plenty of other places that you can find podcasts. There are a few episodes available now. We are in a bi-weekly schedule, so every other week. Thank you.